Every country prints money, but only one currency controls the world. It buys oil, funds wars, and decides the fate of global economies. This paper has no gold behind it, yet nations trust it more than anything else. How did America turn its dollar into the most powerful weapon in history? This is not just a story about money. This is the story of how the US dollar became the king of the world.
Before the 20th century, the world did not revolve around the US dollar. In fact, the dollar was just one of many national currencies, with no special influence over global trade or international finance. To understand how powerful the dollar later became, we must first look at how the world worked before its rise. For centuries, gold was the foundation of the global financial system. International trade was not based on trust in governments or paper money, but on something tangible, something universally valuable: gold. Most powerful nations followed what was called the gold standard. This meant that a country's currency was directly linked to a fixed amount of physical gold stored in its reserves. If you held paper money, you could theoretically exchange it for gold at any time. This system created stability. Currencies did not rise or fall easily. Money had weight. It had limits, and governments could not print endlessly without consequences. Under this system, the nation that dominated global trade was Great Britain. The British pound sterling was the world's most trusted currency. Why? Because Britain controlled the seas. Its navy protected global shipping routes. Its empire stretched across Asia, Africa, and the Americas. British banks financed international trade. British insurance companies protected cargo, and British ports connected the world. If you were trading goods between continents, chances are the transaction passed through London.
The First World War did not destroy the global system overnight, but it cracked its foundation. Europe emerged weakened, economically, politically, and financially. Empires that once ruled continents were now burdened with debt. Gold reserves were drained. Currencies were unstable. The old balance of power was shaking. World War I forced European nations to spend beyond their limits. Governments printed money to fund armies. They abandoned strict gold rules to survive. When the war ended, Europe was exhausted. Factories were damaged, trade routes disrupted, and nations owed massive loans, especially to one country, the United States. America had entered the war late. Its land remained untouched. Its industries expanded instead of collapsing. While Europe borrowed, America lent. Gold flowed across the Atlantic. Confidence followed. Yet, despite this shift, the world tried to return to normal. The gold standard was restored. Old powers attempted to reclaim control, but the damage was already done. Then came World War II. This time, the destruction was absolute. Cities across Europe were reduced to rubble. London burned. Berlin collapsed. Paris was occupied. Factories were bombed, railways destroyed, ports shut down.
By the year 1944, the world was exhausted. 2 global wars had shattered economies. Currencies had collapsed. Trust between nations was fragile. Everyone understood one truth: if the world returned to the old system, it would fall again. Something new was needed. So in the final years of World War II, representatives from 44 countries gathered in a quiet town, Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States. Far from battlefields, far from ruins, here the future of the global economy would be decided. The mission was clear: rebuild the world, restore stability, and prevent another financial collapse. The leaders knew that without a strong financial system, peace would never last. At the center of every discussion stood one country, the United States. It had the strongest economy, the largest industrial base, and most importantly, the world's largest gold reserves. This gave America unmatched leverage. From these meetings, a new global financial system was born. The rules were revolutionary. The US dollar would be directly backed by gold, $35 for 1 ounce of gold. Other major currencies would no longer link themselves to gold.
For all its strength, the Bretton Woods system had a hidden weakness. It depended on discipline. And discipline is hard to maintain, especially for a superpower. By the 1960s, the United States was spending at a historic scale. The Cold War demanded constant military readiness. Bases were built across the world. Troops were stationed on foreign soil. Then came the Vietnam War, a long, expensive conflict with no clear end. At the same time, America launched massive social programs at home: healthcare, education, welfare, infrastructure. The goal was progress, but the cost was enormous. To fund all of this, the US government printed more dollars. But there was a problem. Under Bretton Woods, every dollar was still linked to gold, and gold was limited. Foreign governments began to notice the imbalance. There were more dollars in circulation than gold in American vaults. Confidence began to crack. One by one, countries made a simple demand: exchange our dollars for gold. France led the way. Others followed. Ships carrying gold crossed the Atlantic. So why did the US dollar survive, even after gold was removed? The answer was not found in vaults. It was found underground, in oil. By the early 1970s, the world faced a new reality. Gold no longer backed the dollar, yet global trade continued. Many expected chaos. Instead, a new system quietly emerged. At the center of this system stood the most valuable resource of the modern world: energy, and more specifically, oil. Oil powered everything: transportation, factories, electricity, military machines. Without oil, modern economies could not function. The United States understood this reality, and it acted strategically. Behind closed doors, America made a historic agreement with Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter. The deal was simple, but revolutionary. Saudi oil would be sold only in US dollars. In return, the United States would provide military protection, security guarantees, political support. This agreement did not stay bilateral for long. Soon, other OPEC nations followed. Oil. Today, decades after the gold standard ended, one question still dominates global finance. Why is the US dollar still king? Why does the world continue to rely on it? The answer begins with the numbers. More than 60% of global foreign exchange reserves are held in US dollars. Most international trade, from food to fuel to technology, is priced in dollars. Global loans, corporate debt, international investments, all flow through the same currency. This dominance did not happen by accident. It rests on multiple pillars, and together they form a system no other nation has been able to match. First, the size of the American economy. The United States remains one of the largest and most productive economies on Earth. Its consumers drive global demand. Its companies shape global markets, from technology to finance to defense. Second, military power. The U.S. maintains a global military presence unmatched by any other nation. Sea lanes are protected, trade routes remain open, allies are defended. This security underpins economic confidence. Third, financial depth. As we reach the present day, the global financial system once again stands at a crossroads. The US dollar still dominates, but the world is no longer silent. Across continents, nations are questioning a system that has existed for decades. They ask a dangerous question: what if the dollar is no longer inevitable? Countries like China and Russia are actively searching for alternatives: bilateral trade agreements, local currency settlements, gold accumulation, digital currencies. Every move signals one intention:
reduce dependence on the dollar. New alliances are forming. BRICS nations discuss shared financial systems, regional payment networks expand, technology promises borderless money. For the first time in generations, the idea of a post-dollar world is openly discussed. But history offers a warning. Global reserve currencies do not fall quickly. They are not replaced by announcements or ambitions or political speeches. They fall only after decades of pressure. The British pound once ruled the world. It did not collapse overnight. It faded slowly through wars, debt, and loss of global influence. The same lesson applies today. The dollar